Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tip of the Ice-Burgh podcast, your home for Pittsburgh Penguins news and analysis. You can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh, or you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast from. I'm your host, Nick Belsky, on today's bonus episode as we get you set for Pittsburgh Penguins training camp. That's right, we've made it in just under 24 hours. The entire team will be lacing them up and hitting the ice at UPMC Muse Sports Complex in the first official practice of the 2025-26 season with the full squad all involved. And with that said, there's a lot of storylines to watch up in Cranberry over the next few weeks. I have six of the biggest storylines for you to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks. But to be honest, you could get down to a dozen, you could get to 15 because there are a lot of questions surrounding this Penguins team. To me, there are six big questions that are going to dominate the headlines from now until the start of the season in just over 3 weeks. And the biggest one being, what's the Muse method? Dan Muse, head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, the first new face in that role in over a decade. What does he have in store for us? What does it look like under a new head coach? Because it's been a long time since the Penguins had new leadership at the head coaching position. It's an entirely new coaching staff. I should say almost entirely new coaching staff. We still have Andy Chiodo as the goaltending coach, and we still have Madison Nickel as the Penguins video coach. But outside of that, a lot of fresh faces behind the bench. What changes will we see early? Obviously, we're not going to get a full understanding of all the changes, but what changes will we see to this organization and to this team on the ice in the first couple of weeks? I think that's something that a lot of people are keeping their eyes on, especially considering Dan Muse is a coach that a lot of people believe is going to usher in a lot of these younger players. How does he integrate them? That might be something we talk about here in just a little bit. So the Muse method and what that is and how that is shown to us early on, that's going to be a major storyline. Another one that's going to kind of dominate all of the conversation surrounding this team, not only in training camp, but probably for most of the season, is defense, and even more defense. So many questions with the Penguins blue line going into this season. And I think one of the big ones that I currently have is who, if anybody, is going to move to their off wing from the right side. Because you look at the right side of the Penguins defense as of right now, and it's loaded with names. Chris Letang and Erik Karlsson, obviously. Matt Dumba's on the right side. Connor Clifton's on the right side. So who ends up moving over to the left, if anybody? They might not ask anybody to move to their off wing, but if some of these guys want ice time, i.e. a Connor Clifton, i.e. maybe a guy like a Jack St. Ivany, which, if any, do we see move to their off wing? And what is Dan Muse's method on allowing defensemen to play on their offside? I think that's going to be something interesting to keep an eye out for over the next couple of weeks. St. Ivany's one that I'm circling in that, because this is a guy that is really looking for an opportunity with this organization. He got one at the end of the 2023-24 season, and he played well. He did down that stretch where the Penguins went, I believe it was 8-1-3 or something to that effect. He was a big reason for that. Him and Ryan Shea were playing very well together, and that was his first taste of NHL hockey. And now last year didn't go according to plan. A lot of people wanted him to take a step forward and establish himself as an everyday NHL defenseman. Just wasn't the case. He played 19 games early in the season, was sent down because he struggled through those 19, and then, well, he dealt with an injury directly after that demotion to the American Hockey League, and he wasn't able to get his season back on track to the point where the Pens felt comfortable calling him back up and giving him another shot at the NHL level. So is he somebody that could be a candidate to move to his off wing in order to get one of those opportunities in the 25-26 season? I think that's going to be very interesting. And especially, I've seen a couple people throw out there, maybe Erik Karlsson can move to the left. Maybe Chris Letang can move to the left. I don't know about that. I mean, these guys, for good reason, have been on the right side for their entire careers. At this stage, telling them, hey, can we move you over to the other side? I'm not sure how comfortable they would be doing that. Maybe they are. Who knows? But that to me feels less likely than a guy like Connor Clifton or a guy like Jack St. Ivany. So I want to see if anybody moves to the left. And if they do, who is it? And what opportunity does that open up for them? Because that's the other half of this is who is on the left side of the Penguins defense and how does it shape out? What is the de facto depth chart on the left side of the Penguins defense? Does Owen Pickering make the team in the first place? Not only that, but if he makes the team, does he play in the top four? Does he play on the top pairing? How many minutes a night are we going to see for a young defender in Owen Pickering? It looked at times last year like he was ready to handle that load, like he was ready for that responsibility. And at times it looked like it was a little bit too much too early. So what value do the Penguins place on Owen Pickering early in this season? Do they want him to get a little bit more seasoning in the AHL, or do they view him as a guy that's going to be able to be a flag bearer for the left side of their defense this year? I want to know the answer to that. And that's something that I think of all of these questions, that's one of the ones that are at the very tippy top of my list. Outside of Pickering, you look at a guy like Parker Wotherspoon, who was very good for the Boston Bruins last year in a third pairing depth defenseman role. Well, did the Penguins ask him to step up? I would expect that he's somebody that's a lock to make the team out of camp. But again, how do the Penguins view him? Is he a guy that they're going to plug and play in their top four defensemen, their top two pairs? Is he somebody that's going to log 20 minutes a night next to one of these guys like Letang or Carlson? Or is he going to be somebody who they put in the role that he succeeded in Boston and let him continue to do that and have a bona fide guy on that third pairing? I'm very interested in that. How does the new staff view Ryan Shea? That's a big question on the left side or the right side, because Shea can play both. At least he's shown that over the last couple of seasons. The last coaching staff loved him. Mike Sullivan was a big fan of Ryan Shea. Is Dan Muse the same? Is this coaching staff underneath Muse the same? Do they view Ryan Shea as a guy in the same position that Mike Sullivan's staff did? We'll have to wait and see. And then, of course, you have Ryan Graves still there. Year 3 in Pittsburgh. Are they going to give him another opportunity? Are they going to shelter him a little bit like they did last year with him being a third pairing defenseman most of the season? We'll have to wait and see. But what is the left side of the defense, I think, is another big question surrounding the Penguins. So that's 3. I have 3 more here of the biggest storylines to watch going into Penguins training camp. But remember, if you enjoy this video, to like, share, subscribe on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh, or you can find us anywhere you get your podcast from. Let's get away from defense and let's go to the net. Which version of Tristan Jarry is going to show up early this season? Because last year was strange. You can say what you want about Tristan Jarry's entire career and how you view him, but last year was out of the ordinary for Tristan Jarry. Typically, if you look at his career, he is somebody who comes into camp and comes into the season raring to go. He is very good over his entire career, has been in October, November, and December. The struggles have always come in January, February, March, and then when they've gotten there into late April and early May. But last year was the reverse. It was weird. He had a horrible start, which led to his demotion to the American Hockey League, and he was pretty dang good up to the end. Now, comparatively, I should say, because he still had a .902 save percentage. There were still games where you looked at it and you said, man, still looks like he's fighting it a little bit. But after that last recall, he was 8-4-2 with a .902 save percentage. And I understand that's not lighting the world on fire by any means, but it was certainly the best version of Tristan Jarry that we saw all of last year. So how does that translate? Does he come into this year and it's like it's been most of his career where he's really good at the beginning of the season? Or is it what we saw last year where he struggled to get out of the gate? I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding Tristan Jarry and what version shows up to training camp over the next couple of weeks in Cranberry. Speaking of goaltenders, I mean, you look at Artur Shilov's. Is he a number 2 or is he a 1B? I think that is another part of this entire thing. Are they looking at Shilov's as somebody that's going to share the net with Tristan Jarry? Or do they look at him as a number 2 or a fail-safe if Tristan Jarry struggles like he did out the gate last season? Another one that we're going to go to here is a big one. Honestly, the biggest question to me in all of Penguins training camp, how young are the Penguins going to go at the forward position? Guys like Rutger McGroarty, who is dealing with an injury, so he will miss the beginning of training camp. Guys like Ville Koivunen are expected to battle for roster spots. But who else is going to get an opportunity to do so? Is it going to be Tristan Broz? Is it going to be Avery Hayes coming off of yet another stellar prospects challenge? Where's Philip Hollander going to fit into all of this? What about Phil Tomasino? We remember he's only 24 years old. Is he going to get an opportunity in the top six? Is he going to be viewed as a bottom six guy, a third line guy? Is he going to be viewed as kind of a floater in between? I think there were times last year where you looked at Phil Tomasino and you said, man, he looks very comfortable playing next to Evgeny Malkin. And then there were times last year, for some reason, that the coaching staff just didn't give him the same opportunities that they did earlier in the season. I didn't think his level of play changed that drastically. I think he obviously went through some struggles, as did pretty much everybody on the roster last year, not named Sidney Crosby. But I thought that overall, he proved that he deserves opportunity. So we'll see what opportunity he gets with this new coaching staff. So a lot of these young players, you can throw in Sam Poulin once again. You can throw in, probably not a guy like Emil Pieneniemi, probably not a guy like Finn Harding, but they're going to get chances in the American Hockey League. What I'm looking at is at forward, how many of these young guys are going to get chances? We learned earlier today that the Penguins are bringing in Robbie Fabry on a PTO. Is that a contingency plan in case these young guys aren't quite where the Pens want them? Or is it simply just more competition because, well, the Penguins don't have very many spots that are written in pen. Everything is penciled in right now, and everything can change over the next couple of weeks. Does Tristan Broz have an opportunity to make the team out of camp? I don't know. We shall see. Where does he begin? Where does this coaching staff view him as he steps onto the ice tomorrow afternoon? I think that's going to be a huge question, and honestly, the biggest question surrounding this team is how young are they going to go? We've heard it from Josh Yohe of The Athletic. We've heard it from other outlets as well, that they plan on going young. How young? That's what I want to know. Is this just maybe one here, maybe one there? We're going to try to get them acclimated, and then we'll see who's ready throughout the season. Or is this something that they are valuing and they are attempting to do right out of the gate? We'll have to wait and see. And the sixth and final headline, storyline, thing to watch is something that we're not going to see tomorrow. It's something we're not going to see the next day. But it's simply something we're going to see on September 26th and Saturday, September 27th. And that's Marc-Andre Fleury. I think everybody is excited to have him back in the city of Pittsburgh. Everybody's excited to see him back on the practice rink with his buddies, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang, Sidney Crosby, and everybody is certainly excited to see him participate in that preseason game on September 27th. So I'd be remiss if I did not include him on the 6 storylines to watch, the 6 biggest storylines to watch going into training camp. So there you have it. What do we get out of Dan Muse? That's number 1. Will anybody move to the left side of the defense from the right? That's number 2. Who else is on the left side of the defense, and how does that shake out early on in camp? That's number 3. What version of Tristan Jarry do we get? That's number 4. How young are the Penguins going to go on the forward side of things? That's number 5. And number 6 is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Marc-Andre Fleury. Like I mentioned, the Penguins take the ice tomorrow, Thursday, September 18th, to kick off their 2025 training camp as they prepare for the 2025 season, as well as their preseason opener on September 22nd against the Montreal Canadiens. But that's going to do it for this bonus episode of The Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Or you can check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you guys next time.